For 3,000 years, the Chronic Empire ruled the stars. Picture this, being so massive they made polar bears look like puppies. 9 feet of pure muscle. Covered in armor that could stop bullets, their faces, for glowing eyes that could see in complete darkness, and jaws that could snap steel like twigs, they weren't just big. They were smart, organized, and completely convinced they were the scariest things in the universe. And honestly, they had good reasons to think so. The Chronic had conquered 17 different star systems. That's 17 different intelligent species who had tried to fight back and failed. Some had advanced technology, others had powerful weapons, a few even had psychic abilities. None of it mattered. When the Chronic came calling, civilizations fell like dominoes. Their home planet was a nightmare world where everything wanted to eat everything else. Gravity 3 times stronger than Earth's, acid rain that could melt metal. Predators the size of buildings. The Chronic didn't just survive there, they thrived. They became the apex predators of a world full of apex predators, and they were proud of it, really proud. In their massive hunting halls, they displayed trophies from every species they had conquered, not out of cruelty, but out of respect to the Chronic. Hunting wasn't about hate, it was their culture, their religion, their entire way of life. They believed the universe was one big food chain, and they sat comfortably at the top. Commander Xerath was the best of the best, standing even taller than most Chronic at nearly 10 feet. He commanded the Empire's most elite hunting fleet. His ship, a massive vessel the size of a small city, drifted silently through space near a remote monitoring station. Commander, one of his officers clicked in their harsh language. "We've found something interesting." The main screen lit up with data about a small blue planet orbiting an average yellow star. Nothing special about the system itself. Thousands, just like it scattered across the galaxy. But the readings from the third planet were unusual. Electromagnetic signals, the officer continued. Primitive radio waves, basic satellites. They've barely left their planet's surface. Xerath studied the data with all 4 eyes. The planet's dominant species appeared to be bipedal mammals. No natural armor. No claws worth mentioning. Teeth so dull they needed tools to cut their food. They couldn't even see in the dark without artificial help. How did such weak creatures become dominant? Another officer wondered aloud. It was a good question. The scan showed these humans, as they called themselves, had soft skin that could be pierced by something as simple as a thorn. They couldn't run particularly fast. They had no natural weapons. By all logic, they should have gone extinct millions of years ago. Perhaps they're just lucky. Someone suggested, their planet seems peaceful. Few large predators remain. Xerath made a sound that passed for laughter among his kind. Then they've grown soft, weak. They've forgotten what it means to be hunted. The decision came easy. Too easy, looking back. Earth would be their next hunting ground. The humans would provide sport for young Chronic warriors learning their trade. Nothing too challenging, just enough to keep skills sharp between real conquests. The High Council met in their crystal chamber, where the skull of every conquered species greatest warrior hung in places of honor. The vote was unanimous. Earth's location was perfect, far from any major galactic powers who might interfere. The humans had no allies, no protections, no idea they weren't alone in the universe. How long for the hunt? The eldest council member asked. A week, perhaps. 2. Xerath responded confidently. Their technology is 3 centuries behind our most primitive systems. They still use chemical rockets, if you can believe it. Laughter echoed through the chamber. Chemical rockets. Like trying to fight a plasma cannon with a sharp stick. The invasion fleet began preparations immediately. 47 ships, each carrying hundreds of Chronic warriors eager for glory. Young hunters polished their armor and sharpened their claws. Veterans told stories of past conquests, building excitement for what promised to be an easy victory. But there was something the Chronic missed in all their scans and data, something that didn't show up on any sensor reading. While they focused on physical strength and natural weapons, they overlooked the one thing that had made humans the dominant species. On their planet, these soft, weak creatures had survived ice ages that froze half their world. They'd lived through volcanic winters that blocked out their sun, plagues that killed millions, predators that hunted them, disasters that would have ended other species. And they hadn't just survived, they'd learned. Every disaster taught them something new. Every predator that hunted them became a lesson in survival. Every challenge made them smarter, more adaptable, more dangerous. The Cronach saw prey animals playing with primitive technology. What they should have seen was the most adaptable species in the known galaxy. A species that had turned their weakness into their greatest strength. A species that didn't need claws or armor because they had something far more dangerous. They had the ability to learn faster than anything else alive. As the invasion fleet powered up their engines and set course for Earth, Commander Zereth reviewed the battle plans one last time. Everything was perfect. Overwhelming force, superior technology. Warriors trained from birth to be perfect hunters. In the trophy hall, they had already cleared a space for humanity's greatest warrior. The skull would look small next to the others, but size wasn't everything. Even weak prey deserved respect when hunted properly. The fleet jumped to hyperspace, carrying thousands of the galaxy's most feared predators toward a small blue planet. They expected an easy hunt, a quick victory, another species added to their collection. They had no idea they were about to meet their teachers. Tuesday morning started like any other day on Earth. People woke up, made coffee, checked their phones, and headed to work. Kids went to school. Dogs got walked. Life moved along as it had for thousands of years. Then the sky changed. At exactly 9:47 a.m. Greenwich Mean Time, 47 massive ships appeared in Earth's orbit. No warning. No gradual approach. One moment the space was empty. The next it was full of alien warships. Each one bigger than any structure humans had ever built. But here's the thing that confused the Cronach. Earth didn't panic. Not the way they expected. Sure, there was fear, confusion, a whole lot of what the heck is that. But within minutes, something else kicked in. Something the Cronach had never seen before in a prey species organization. In underground bunkers that the public never knew existed, screens lit up with data. Scientists who'd spent their careers hoping for this moment suddenly found themselves in the most important rooms on the planet. Military leaders set aside old rivalries. Politicians stopped arguing. For maybe the first time in human history, the entire species worked as one. The woman in charge of Earth's response stood in a command center buried deep beneath Geneva. Director Chen. That wasn't her real name, but it's what we'll call her. Watched the alien fleet with calm eyes. She'd been preparing for this moment for 15 years. Ever since certain signals from deep space suggested we weren't alone. How long until they make contact? She asked. Based on their formation, maybe 6 hours. Her deputy replied. They're scanning us, learning about us. Chen almost smiled. Good. Let them look. Run Protocol 7. Across the planet, hidden facilities. Hum to life. Not weapons, though Earth had those too. These were something different. Massive computer networks designed for one purpose. To learn faster than any biological brain could manage. The Cronach expected Earth to do what every other species had done. Panic. Send desperate messages. Launch their primitive nuclear weapons. In a useless display of defiance. Instead, they got silence. Earth wasn't responding to their presence at all. Commander Zereth found this unsettling. Why don't they react? He asked his bridge crew. They can see us. They're primitive satellites. Are photographing our ships. Perhaps they're paralyzed with fear, an officer suggested. But that wasn't it. Earth was reacting. Just not in any way the Cronach could understand. Every telescope on the planet pointed at the alien fleet. Every radio dish listened to their communications. Every computer analyzed the data. Humans were doing what humans did best, learning. Within 3 hours, linguists had identified patterns in Cronach transmissions. Within 4, they decoded basic mathematical concepts. By 5, they understood simple commands. The Cronach, meanwhile, prepared for invasion the way they always did. Dropships loaded with warriors. Battle plans following strategies perfected over millennia. They identified major population centers and divided them among their hunting packs. The first wave launched at sunset, Greenwich time. Hundreds of dropships streaking through Earth's atmosphere. Like falling stars, they expected resistance, fighter jets, missiles, the desperate attacks of a species trying to protect its home. Instead, they found empty streets. In Moscow, pack leader Thrax led his unit through Red Square. His four eyes scanned for heat signatures, movement, anything. The city of 12 million people seemed deserted. No fleeing crowds, no military vehicles. Just silence and snow beginning to fall. Where are they hiding? A younger warrior asked. Confusion clear in his clicks. Thrax didn't answer because he didn't know. In 3,000 years of conquest, prey had always done one of two things, fight or flee. Humans appeared to be doing neither. Then the screens turned on, every billboard, every TV and every shop window, every phone left behind, they all showed the same thing, the Kronak's own invasion, played back in real time. But something was wrong with the footage. It showed patterns in their movement they hadn't noticed, weaknesses in their formation, blind spots in their coverage. Thrax felt a chill that had nothing to do with Moscow's winter. The humans weren't just watching, they were analyzing, learning, teaching themselves how Kronak moved, how they thought, how they hunted. In Tokyo, another pack found something even more disturbing. A subway station converted into what looked like a classroom. Whiteboards covered with diagrams of Kronak anatomy, sketches showing joint articulation, notes about estimated strength based on movement patterns. The humans had been studying them for less than 6 hours and already understood things about Kronak biology that had taken their own scientists decades to map. But the real shock came in New York. Squad leader Gorth tracked a heat signature into an abandoned shopping mall. Finally, prey to hunt. He cornered what appeared to be a group of civilians in a food court. Families, elderly, children. Easy prey. An old man stepped forward. He was small, even for a human, wrinkled skin, weak muscles. Gorth could break him with one claw. But the man's eyes, there was no fear there, just curiosity. Fascinating, the old man said. And he said it in Kronak, accented, imperfect, but understandable. A language the humans had heard for the first time less than 6 hours ago. Your armor. The man continued, still in broken Kronak, heavy. Must be hard to move in Earth gravity. We're lighter here then. Your world, yes, makes you slower. More energy to move. Gorth stood frozen. Not from fear, but from complete confusion. The prey was analyzing the predator, out loud. To his face, behind the old man, others were taking notes. A young woman sketched Gorth's armor joints on a tablet. A teenager recorded video on a phone. Children, watched with the same scientific fascination they might show for an interesting bug. How long can you hunt before resting? The old man asked. Your muscle structure suggests burst activity, not endurance. Like our cheetahs, fast, but not for long. That's when Gorth realized the horrible truth. The humans weren't hiding from the hunt, they were studying it. Every move the Kronak made taught the humans something new. Every tactic revealed information. Every victory gave the prey more data. Around the world, the pattern repeated. Kronak hunters found humans who refused to act like prey, who took notes while being hunted, who led pursuers through exhausting chases, always staying just out of reach, testing how long Kronak could maintain pursuit. By dawn of the second day, Director Chen had enough data to brief the world's leaders. They're burst predators, she explained over secure video link. Incredibly dangerous for short periods, but they tire quickly. Their home world is triple our gravity. They're actually weaker here, not stronger. Their armor is their weakness. It's built for their world, too heavy for extended operation in our gravity. How can you know all this? The American president asked. Chen pulled up videos from around the world. Humans leading Kronak on measured chases, timing how long before they slowed, testing their vision in different light spectrums, measuring reaction times. Because, she said, every human on Earth just became a scientist. And the Kronak? They volunteered to be our test subjects. The hunt continued. But something fundamental had shifted. The predators were beginning to realize a terrifying truth. They weren't the ones doing the hunting anymore. They were being studied. and their prey was learning faster than any species they'd ever encountered. Commander Zereth stared at the reports flooding in from Earth. None of it made sense. 3 days into what should have been an easy conquest, and his warriors were exhausted. Not defeated, not injured, just tired in a way that seemed impossible. For the galaxy's greatest hunters, the numbers told a story he didn't want to believe. Chronic warriors, trained from birth, were being outlasted by soft humans who needed water every few hours. Just to survive. How was this possible? The answer was buried in Earth's ancient past, but Zereth didn't know that yet. In London, pack leader Vronik chased a group of humans through the abandoned streets. They stayed just ahead of him, always visible, never quite catchable. When he sprinted, they jogged away. When he slowed, they slowed. When he stopped to rest, they stopped too, watching him from a safe distance. It had been going on for hours. Vronik's armor, perfect for the high-gravity world he came from, felt like it was made of lead. His muscles, built for explosive power, screamed for rest, but the humans just kept moving, steady, relentless, patient. An older human woman called out to him in broken Chronic, "Need break?" "We wait." The mockery burned worse than his aching muscles, except, was it mockery? The woman's tone seemed almost concerned, like she was worried about him. Back in Earth's command center, scientists were putting together a picture that would have amazed Zereth if he'd known about it. They weren't military strategists or weapons experts. They were anthropologists, historians, biologists, people who studied how humans became human 2 million years ago. One scientist explained to the gathered military leaders, "Our ancestors were small, weak, everything wanted to eat us. So we developed a superpower that no one else had." She pulled up a presentation that had been thrown together in hours, but contained insights that took centuries to develop. We learned to persistence. Hunt, while predators like lions can run faster, they overheat quickly. They need rest, but humans, we can keep going and going and going. We literally walked our prey to exhaustion. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. "You're saying we're going to walk the aliens to death?" a general asked. "Not to death," the scientist corrected. "To defeat. They're burst predators. We're endurance predators. This isn't our weakness. It's our oldest strength." Across the planet, the pattern continued. In Cairo, humans led Chronic hunters through the desert heat. The aliens' cooling systems, designed for their cold home world, couldn't cope. They had to rest every 20 minutes while humans, sweating and adapting, kept moving. In Mumbai, during the hottest part of the day, humans jogged slowly through the streets, just fast enough that the Chronic had to maintain pursuit, just slow enough that it looked easy. The psychological effect was devastating. The galaxy's greatest hunters were being outrun by beings moving at what looked like a leisurely pace, but it wasn't just physical endurance. It was mental persistence. In Berlin, a young engineer named Klaus had spent 48 hours straight analyzing captured Chronic equipment. No sleep, minimal food, just pure focus on understanding alien technology. When his team finally cracked the power source, they didn't celebrate. They immediately started working on improvements. The Chronic had never seen anything like it. Most species fought hard, then collapsed. Humans just kept going. When they failed, they tried again. When they fell, they got up. When one human tired, another took their place seamlessly. Zereth called an emergency meeting of his commanders. The great warriors of the Chronic Empire sat in their council chamber, and for the first time in their history, they looked worried. "Report," Zereth ordered. "Moscow pack, exhausted, pursuing humans for 14 hours, no captures." Tokyo pack, 3 warriors collapsed from heat exhaustion. Humans provided them with water before continuing the chase. New York pack, the commander paused, struggling with the words. The humans appeared to be taking shifts. When one group tires, fresh humans continue the pursuit pattern. That last report sent ripples of disbelief through the room. The humans were organizing their entire population into a relay race, while individual Chronic warriors exhausted themselves. Humanity kept coming in waves, but the real shock came from the technology division. "Commander," the head technician's voice shook. The humans have reverse engineered our communication system. Not just decoded, improved. They're using our own network to coordinate, but with 20% better efficiency. Impossible, Zereth snarled. That technology took us centuries to perfect. They did it in 3 days. The silence that followed was deafening. 3 days. The humans had looked at advanced alien technology and not only understood it but made it better in 3 days. Meanwhile, on Earth, something beautiful was happening. The fear was fading, replaced by something else, confidence, not the swagger of warriors, but the quiet certainty of a species that had found its strength. Children drew pictures of tired aliens resting on street corners. Teenagers created memes about walking with aliens. Social media, which the Chronic couldn't understand at all, exploded with tips for persistence. Hunting aliens in your neighborhood. Remember to hydrate. One post read, "Our alien friends don't sweat like we do. They overheat fast. Steady pace beats sprinting," advised another. "Let them tire themselves out." The Chronic, monitoring human communications, couldn't understand what they were seeing. The prey was giving each other hunting advice against the predators, and it was working. In the Australian outback, where the heat was brutal and the distances vast, Aboriginal elders smiled knowingly. They'd been persistent hunting for 50,000 years. Their young people led Chronic warriors on journeys through the desert, following paths their ancestors had walked since the dawn of time. One elder, watching an exhausted Chronic warrior collapse in the shade, spoke to his grandson. "See, the old ways still work. Doesn't matter if it's kangaroo or alien, everything gets tired if you're patient enough." By the end of the first week, Zereth had to face facts that challenged everything he believed about predators and prey. His warriors weren't losing battles. There were no battles. They were losing a marathon they didn't even know they were running. The humans had turned the entire planet into a persistence hunt, and they were very, very good at it. Worse, they were learning. Every hour brought new reports of humans adapting Chronic technology. Their weapons, designed to intimidate, were being studied and improved. Their armor, built for protection, was being analyzed for weaknesses. One captured Chronic warrior reported something that chilled Zereth to his core. The humans who caught him hadn't celebrated or gloated. They'd given him water, food, and medical attention. Then they'd asked him about his home world, his family, his culture. They weren't just learning how to fight the Chronic. They were learning who the Chronic were. Understanding them, and nothing, Zereth realized, was more dangerous than an enemy who truly understood you. 3 weeks. That's all it took for the galaxy's most feared empire to question everything they thought. They knew about strength, power, and survival. Commander Zereth stood before his war council, studying reports that made no sense. The Chronic had superior weapons, advanced technology, and warriors trained from birth. Yet they were losing ground every single day, not through dramatic battles or heroic last stands, but through something far more unsettling. The humans were getting strong or died. In Edinburgh, an evolutionary biologist became an unlikely hero. Dr. Macready, a thin man with thick glasses who'd spent his life studying ancient human ancestors, suddenly found himself explaining humanity's secret weapon to rooms full of generals and world leaders. "Look," he said, pointing to a projection of early humans. "Our ancestors were basically lunch for everything with sharp teeth. No claws, no fangs, skin so thin a house cat could scratch it. We should have died out a million years ago." He clicked to the next slide showing a human brain. "But we had this, and we used it to flip the entire food chain upside down. We didn't grow stronger muscles, we grew smarter strategies. We didn't develop thicker skin, we developed better tools. Every predator that hunted us became our teacher." The room was silent outside. Alien ships still hovered in the sky, but somehow they seemed less threatening now. "The Chronic are burst predators," Macready continued, "like cheetahs or crocodiles. Explosive power, quick kills. We're persistence predators. We exhaust our prey. But more importantly, we learn every hunt makes us better hunters." And the evidence was everywhere. In Japan, a team of engineers had done something incredible. They'd taken a crashed Chronic scout ship, technology centuries ahead of anything on Earth, and not only fixed it, but improved it. The power efficiency was up 12%. The navigation system was smoother. The seats were even adjusted for human comfort. When Kronik technicians analyzed the modifications, they couldn't hide their shock. The humans had looked at technology they'd never seen before and immediately found ways to make it better. It was like showing a smartphone to someone from the Stone Age and having them upgrade the operating system. But the really scary part, the humans who did this weren't even military. They were car mechanics, computer programmers, that teenager who fixes phones at the mall, regular people who just happen to be really good at taking things apart and making them better. The Kronik warrior captured in Berlin told his debriefers something that spread through the invasion fleet like wildfire. The humans who caught him hadn't tortured him for information. They taught him to play chess. Why? His fellow warriors asked. They said they wanted to understand how I think, he replied. They learned more from watching me play a game than from any interrogation. This was the pattern everywhere. Humans weren't just fighting the Kronik, they were studying them like scientists, studying a new species, and they were sharing everything. They learned no secrets, no classified information. Every discovery was immediately broadcast to the entire planet. A grandmother in Mumbai figured out that Kronik vision was motion-based and told her neighbors. Within hours, everyone on Earth knew that standing still made you harder for Kronik to spot. A teenager in Detroit noticed that Kronik armor had a weak spot where the chest plate met the shoulder guard. He posted it online with a helpful diagram. By morning, 7 billion humans knew exactly where that weak spot was. The Kronik had never faced anything like this. When they conquered other worlds, knowledge stayed fractured. Military leaders hoarded tactical information. Scientists kept discoveries secret. But humans? They turned the entire planet into one giant classroom where everyone was both student and teacher. Captain Wong led the mission that really showed the Kronik what they were dealing with. Her team of 30 volunteers, not special forces, just regular people who signed up to help, infiltrated a landed Kronik supply ship. What they did next defied all military logic. Instead of sabotaging the ship or stealing weapons, they spent 6 hours just learning. They photographed every control panel. They traced every wire. They figured out how the food synthesizers worked and what nutrients Kronik needed. When they left, they hadn't damaged anything, but they understood everything within days. Human factories were producing Kronik field rations, not to poison or weaken, the opposite. The humans were making better food for their invaders than the Kronik made for themselves. The message was clear. We understand you so well. We can take care of you better than you can take care of yourselves. The psychological impact was crushing. How do you fight an enemy that responds to invasion by trying to improve your nutrition? But perhaps the most terrifying display of human learning came from the children all over Earth. Kids were playing Kronik and humans, but they weren't playing war. They were playing first context scenarios. 8-year-olds were practicing alien languages. 10-year-olds were drawing detailed anatomical charts. Teenagers were writing essays on interspecies communication barriers and how to overcome them. The children of Earth were preparing for a galactic community, while their invaders were still thinking in terms of predator and prey. Human kids were already thinking about integration and cooperation. Zirth received a video that his intelligence officers insisted he watch. It showed a human classroom where children were presenting projects about Kronik culture. One little girl had built a model of a Kronik city based on architectural patterns observed in their ships. A boy had composed what he called Kronik music by analyzing the harmonics of their language. When they grow up, his intelligence chief said quietly, "These children will know your species better than you know yourselves." The War Council fell silent. They'd expected resistance, defiance, hatred. Instead, they were facing curiosity, interest, even affection. Human children were drawing pictures of Kronik warriors with hearts and smiley faces. How do you conquer a species that looks at invasion and sees a learning opportunity? The answer was becoming clear. Udon single quotes T. Every day brought new innovations. Humans adapted to chronic tactics faster than the chronic could develop new ones. They predicted movements, anticipated strategies, and prepared counters before attacks even began. One chronic commander reported something that summed up the entire invasion. It's like fighting water. Every time we push, they flow around us. Every time we grab, they slip through our fingers, and the entire time, they're learning exactly how we push and grab. The ultimate predator, it turned out, wasn't the one with the sharpest claws or the strongest muscles. It wasn't even the one with the best technology or the biggest ships. The ultimate predator was the one that could look at any challenge, even invasion by a superior force, and ask the most dangerous question in the universe. How can I learn from this? And humans, they never stopped asking that question. 6 weeks. That's how long it took for the most powerful empire in the galaxy to ask for a peace meeting. Not from a position of strength, but from a growing understanding that they'd encountered something beyond their comprehension. Commander Xerath stood in his ship's council chamber, preparing for the most important conversation of his life. On the holographic display before him appeared Director Chen, the human woman who coordinated Earth's impossible defense. She smiled. Not the smile of a victor gloating over the defeated, but the warm smile of someone meeting a new neighbor. Commander Xerath, she said in perfect chronic. Not the broken attempts from weeks ago, but fluent, natural speech that respected every click and trill of his language. Thank you for reaching out. We've been hoping to talk properly. Xerath had prepared for many things, demands for surrender, threats of retaliation, maybe even gloating. He hadn't prepared for politeness. You could have destroyed us, he said, his for eyes studying her face. Your weapons, the ones you developed from our technology. Our scans show you could have wiped out our fleet days ago. Why didn't you? Chen's response changed everything. Because that would have been such a waste. She said simply, you've traveled across the galaxy. You've seen worlds we can only dream of. You have knowledge that took thousands of years to accumulate. Why would we destroy all that when we could learn from it instead? She paused, choosing her next words carefully. Commander, I need to tell you something about humans. Something that might help you understand what happened here. Millions of years ago, we were prey. Small, weak creatures hiding in trees from predators that could tear us apart. We had two choices: become stronger than our predators or become smarter. She gestured to herself with a small laugh. Obviously, we didn't get stronger. A house. Cat could probably take me in a fair fight, but we did something else. We learned that the best way to deal with a predator wasn't to fight it or run from it. It was to understand it. On the screen behind her, images appeared. Cave paintings showing humans and wolves, then humans and dogs. The story of how humanity's first predator became their closest companion. We didn't conquer wolves, Chen explained. We learned from them, understood them. Eventually, we hunted together. They taught us to track. We taught them to herd. Both species became better because we stopped seeing each other as predator and prey. Xerath felt something shift in his understanding. You're saying, I'm saying that's what we want here. Not conquest, not submission. Partnership. You spent 3,000 years becoming the galaxy's greatest hunters. We've spent 1,000,000 years learning to learn. Imagine what we could accomplish together. The silence stretched between stars as Xerath processed this. His entire worldview, predator and prey, hunter and hunted, strong and weak, was crumbling. My people won't understand, he said finally. We've always been the hunters. It's who we are. You still are, Chen replied. Nothing changes that. But maybe it's time to hunt bigger things. Knowledge, understanding, the secrets of the universe. There are better trophies than skulls. Commander, like the cure for diseases or the answer to faster than light communication, or finding out if there's anyone else out there among the stars. She leaned forward, her eyes bright with possibility. Your strength and our adaptability. Your courage and our curiosity. We could explore places neither of us could reach alone. And here's the thing about humans. We're really good at making friends with former predators. Just ask our dogs. The negotiation that followed wasn't really a negotiation. It was more like a family reunion where the family had never met before. Earth offered to share every innovation they developed, the improved engines, the more efficient armor, the better food synthesizers. We also figured out why your warriors were getting those muscle cramps. One human scientist mentioned casually, "Your home world has less calcium than Earth. We've designed supplements that should help." The Chronic warriors couldn't believe it. Their conquerors were worried about their muscle cramps. But the real shock came when Earth revealed their actual defense network hidden beneath major cities. Weapons that could have vaporized the Chronic fleet in seconds. Weapons they'd chosen not to use. "We build them just in case," Chen explained. "But we're much happier not using them. Weapons break things. We prefer to build within days." Former enemies were working side by side, Chronic strength lifting heavy equipment, human engineers making it work better, Chronic hunters teaching tracking techniques, human persistence hunters showing how to maintain energy over long distances. The first joint crew launched 3 months later. The ship was a masterpiece of cooperation, Chronic hull design. With human efficiency modifications, the crew was half and half, chosen not for military skill, but for curiosity and ability to learn. Their mission wasn't conquest, it was exploration, seeking out new civilizations, new knowledge, new friends among the stars. The galaxy's greatest hunters paired with the galaxy's greatest learners. Xerath's final report to the Chronic archives would be studied for generations. "We believed ourselves apex predators because we were strong, fast, fierce. We measured superiority by the ability to dominate. The humans taught us a terrifying and wonderful truth. The ultimate predator isn't the one who can destroy most efficiently. It's the one who can adapt most quickly. They are not warriors, though they can fight. They are not conquerors, though they could conquer. They are something far more dangerous and far more valuable. They are students, eternal students who see every challenge as a lesson, every enemy as a teacher, every conflict as a chance to grow. And now they have made us students too. We came to Earth as hunters. We leave as explorers. We arrive as conquerors. We depart as friends. This is humanity's greatest weapon and greatest gift. They turn predators into partners. They transform conquest into cooperation. The hunt continues, but now we hunt together, and our prey is no longer each other, but ignorance itself. The humans have shown us there are better trophies than skulls, knowledge, understanding, friendship. These are the treasures worth pursuing across the stars." The Galactic Council would later classify Earth not as a conquered world or a military power, but as a protected learning zone. Not because humans needed protection, but because the galaxy needed what humans offered, the ability to see potential friends. Where others saw only enemies, 5 years later, when the joint expedition discovered the ruins of an ancient civilization in the Andromeda Galaxy, it was a human child and a young Chronic who decoded the language together. The child's curiosity and the Chronac's determination. The perfect partnership. As one council member noted, they turned first contact with hostile apex predators into the beginning of the galaxy's golden age of exploration. Imagine what they might achieve when they meet someone who comes in peace. The stars waited, and for the first time in galactic history, they waited not for conquerors, but for friends.